Welcome to the Governor's Mansion. This, of course, is the home of the highest elected official in the state. And this house was built, believe it or not, in 1909, which means it's just about 102 years old. Now, Nevada didn't always want a governor's mansion, and despite the fact that it's one of only 6 states, or actually there are only 6 states that don't have a governor's mansion, 44 have them, Nevada wasn't always keen on the idea. They first tried to pass a bill to have a governor's mansion in 1879. And it was turned down because a lot of people thought that it promoted the idea of aristocratic distinction. But then in 1907, they finally passed it. Even though the governor at that time, John Sparks, was against the idea, he vetoed it. They overrode his veto and passed the bill. And the irony of that is, Governor John Sparks unfortunately passed away while they were building it and never ended up moving in. He was succeeded by his lieutenant governor, Denver Dickerson, who was the first governor to live here, the 12th governor of the state, and we'll see his picture in a little bit. I'll show you him and his wife and one of his kids. We'll talk about her as well. But as I mentioned, the house has been over 102 years here, and it's undergone 2 major renovations in that time. And the first was in the 1960s, and that was under Governor Paul Laxalt, and that's when they put in these chandeliers. And you can see around, there's one behind me that's the biggest one in the house. There are 16 of them throughout the house, upstairs and down. They're made of Czechoslovakian crystal. And that was kind of a touchy subject in the 1960s when they purchased them, because if you know your history, in the late 1960s we were at the height of the Cold War, and nobody wanted to hear that we were buying things from communist countries. So they quickly pointed out that they were designed and assembled in Austria, and that seemed to be okay. So they put those in then, and then in 1998 they did another renovation, and the fundraising for that was spearheaded by First Lady Sandy Miller, who helped raise about $5 million in private donations. Not a dollar of taxpayer dollars were spent. And they built the building next door, which we'll see in a little bit. And they did some renovations here, including putting in this marble floor and the hardwood floors that you see now. See, prior to them putting these in and building the building next door, they had a lot of events in the house, and there were regularly over 100 people here. And it was a lot of wear and tear, of course, on the carpet and on the floor. And so when they built the building next door, they were able to put in a much nicer ground here. So it's pretty cool. Now, over the years, 19 governors and their families have lived in this house, including our current governor, Governor Brian Sandoval, who is our 30th governor, lives here with his wife, 3 kids, 4 dogs, 2 cats, 2 guinea pigs, and a tortoise. And they're not the only strange animals to have lived in the house, the guinea pigs and the tortoise. I know Governor Russell actually had a pet alligator, a 3-foot caiman, that lived in a tub in the basement. And I remember one day, well, I don't remember, but one day the First Lady had gone down the stairs to do some laundry, and she saw the alligator running around down there. Now, what would you do if you went downstairs and you saw an alligator running around on the floor?
Freak out.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what she did. She actually went back up the stairs, out the door, around to the baseball field back here, grabbed her son, who was in the middle of a baseball game, brought him back and had him put the alligator away. And shortly thereafter, I think they gave the alligator to a friend. So, as I mentioned, the governor and 3 kids and the wife and the animals, they all live here full time. And
How far from this part of the house do they live?
This part of the house, they actually live right above us.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. The upstairs is sort of their private quarters. Downstairs is mainly for entertaining and for what we're doing right now. So, one other thing I'll mention, in the 98 remodel, they put in a time capsule. They put the time capsule under this 3rd stair right here. And that was First Lady Sandy Miller. And that time capsule, of course, when you put a time capsule together, you want to put some things from the time, things that people, when you dig it up a little later, might think were unusual or interesting in that time. It was the late 90s. Some things were pretty popular at that time. They put some money in because money was just starting to change its face. They also put in a couple of baseball cards, a couple guys named Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. I don't know if anybody remembers them. And a movie called The Titanic. And they also put a toy in called a Furby. Remember the Furby?
Oh, yeah.
In the late 90s, real popular. So that's what's under the steps right here. It's got a 20-year time stamp on it, which means in 2018 or so, they could dig it back up. So
Nice.
we'll see. Now I'm going to take you guys into this north parlor over here, and we'll take a look at that. So this is the north parlor. There are two parlors here, as I mentioned before. The house has always been used for a lot of entertaining, and so that's what these two rooms are for. And as you look around, you can see some of the furniture, and it represents different time periods. A lot of it was brought in throughout the years by different governors. None of it belongs to the Sandoval family. All of this furniture that you see belongs to the state, and it's actually on loan to us from the museum. Just like the house belongs to the state, this is the people's house. So anybody who pays taxes in this state really owns a little piece of this property, which is kind of cool. And I'll mention a few pieces of furniture that are really unique. This piece right here, this china cabinet, belonged to Governor Denver Dickerson. It actually lived here in the house while Denver Dickerson was here between 1909 and 1911. Now there's Denver Dickerson just above on the left-hand side, and to his right, Una Dickerson, his wife, and just to their right, June Dickerson, who is the only person ever to have been born inside this house. She was actually born in a little room upstairs. And the cabinet was owned by the family, passed down through generations, and just this year it was donated back to the governor's mansion by the Dickerson family, which means we got it back exactly 100 years after it left the house. Very cool. Now, I mentioned all the entertaining that's done here, and behind this wall over here used to be, if you want to follow me over this way, used to be a library. But Governor Laxalt, when he renovated in the 1960s, had decided that a library probably wasn't as appropriate as a bar. So they put in a bar. Of course, when we give the kids tours, we tell them it's still a library. But yeah, it doesn't get used very often, but it is a nice thing to have when we have important guests and things like that. So,
wow, very
cool.
nice.
So now I'm going to take you guys across the way into the south parlor. We'll make one little stop by the staircase before we go. All right, so I wanted to stop down this little cubby for a second because I got to show you one of the governor's favorite things. I mentioned before that the three kids live here, and the youngest, Marissa, who's 7, was in the first grade when Governor Sandoval was elected back in November of last year. And her first grade class put together a little project. And part of it was a poster that we'll see in his office. The other part was this little book, and it's called How to Be a Good Governor. And you can see each one of them wrote him a letter, drew him a picture, and of course there's some surprisingly honest things in here. Right? Things like, you need to be a good person, you need to treat others well, we want more recess, things like that.
Oh, right. I agree to that.
So he keeps that out where everybody can see it because it's just a nice reminder, you know, the honesty of kids. It's pretty cool. Now, while we're here, I'll also point out this picture on the wall. You guys know who that is? Anybody?
Well,
Go ahead.
Patricia.
Yeah. Go ahead,
I
Pat.
don't want to cheat.
That's right. You're allowed to cheat. Yeah, go right ahead.
Pat Nixon.
That's Pat Nixon. That's exactly right. Of course, wife of Richard Nixon, and she was the only U.S. First Lady to have been born in the state of Nevada. She was actually born in a mining shack in Ely, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So, yeah, really interesting story. So now I'm going to take you guys into the south parlor. All right. All right. So this is the south parlor. And just like the north parlor, only it's on the south side of the house, there's a couple of differences in here, some things I like to point out. First is that picture of Abraham Lincoln over there. And I love that picture because it's one of the few pictures of Abraham Lincoln that you'll find without his beard and his top hat. I always say to the kids, you know, if you were going out for Halloween as Abe Lincoln, what are the first 2 things you'd put on? And in that picture, he doesn't have either of them. So that's pretty cool. But probably the most interesting thing in this house is this grandfather clock over here. And the grandfather clock is just over 275 years old. It was made in England just over 275 years ago and brought to the United States just over 100 years ago. And it was about the time that they were building the mansion, which is why a lot of people believe that this clock is the only piece left in the house that's been here the entire time the house has been here. It's been here for the entire 102 years. There are those who refute that, but I like to believe it. It gives it a little more character. And there are too, of course, are a lot of stories about the clock being haunted. Now, some say that it's the ghost of June Dickerson, the only person to have been born in the house. Some say that it's the ghost of Governor Fred Balzar, the only person to have died in the house. But whoever it is, we know that it's a friendly ghost. We don't have any horror stories. Nobody's ever been hurt. Just every once in a while, we come in this room and that little door on the front has sort of opened by itself. So we just come over, we push it shut, we lock it back up, and we go about doing whatever it is we were doing. We leave the ghost alone, the ghost leaves us alone. The clock does still work. It was restored a few years ago by a man in Gardnerville. His name here on the wall. And it's just a beautiful piece, a lovely addition to
And
this
it makes
house.
a noise, it makes a chime?
It's still, absolutely.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So, now I'm going to take you guys into the formal dining room. All right, so this is the formal dining room, and it's one of two dining rooms in the house. This is where important meetings take place, important dinners. The family will maybe have their Easter dinner in here, as they did this year, or Thanksgiving, which is coming up as well. But if you look around, you can see, it's got that formal feel with the drapes and the artwork and these two pieces right here, which I'll talk about in a minute. But what's interesting to me is over the years, prior to 1955 or so, the house actually didn't have a lot of the things that it needed to do all the entertaining that they were doing. So in 1955, Governor Russell acquired about $8,000 to buy some things that they needed, things like plates and chairs and silverware that they used to have to borrow from the local Episcopal church, believe it or not. And he went out and he bought this table and this matching buffet. And this table is roughly just over 100 years old, and you look at the sides, and it's hand-painted. It's never been redone. The buffet as well. He found these at an estate sale in Piedmont, California, which, of course, I tell the kids is like a big yard sale. This is kind of cool. It's seen a lot of history over the years. A lot of famous people have sat at this table or in this room. Prior to the table being here, Will Rogers was in the house at one point. A lot of past presidents we know. Richard Nixon was here. Ronald Reagan was here. And a really cool story about JFK. Now, JFK came before he was president. He came in 1960 while he was running to become president. We had a governor at that time by the name of Grant Sawyer. Now, Grant Sawyer was a big promoter of JFK. In fact, he was one of the first governors in the country to really push for JFK for president. So he held a reception here at Nevada's governor's mansion, and JFK showed up about an hour early. Well, the problem was Grant Sawyer was still upstairs taking a bath. So JFK shows up at the door, and First Lady Betty Sawyer comes down and opens the door, and there's JFK, and he says, "Where's Grant?" So she tells him. So he goes upstairs, into the bathroom, sits down on top of the toilet seat, and has a conversation with Governor Sawyer until he completes taking his bath. I imagine they were very close. Likely, shortly after, perhaps, he sat at this table here, and they had a meeting. I know our current governor likes to have meetings in this room as well. It's a beautiful setting for meetings. So that's very cool. Do you have any questions about this room?
What's this picture up here?
It's a great question. That's Sarah Winnemucca. And you may have noticed some of the artwork as we've gone through. All of the artwork in this house is either on loan to us from the museum or donated by local artists. This piece was donated by a local artist last year or so. And Sarah Winnemucca is such an important figure in the state. We have a statue of her over at the Capitol building. There's also a statue of her in Washington, D.C. And Sarah Winnemucca is the first female Native American that we know to have written a book. She also is the first Native American of either sex to have written a book west of the Rockies. She also helped create a model of schools that's still used as a model of schools today. And for all those reasons and many more, that's why she's so important to us here in Nevada. Very cool. So next I'm going to take you guys into the governor's private office. We're going to cut through the butler's pantry right here, so just follow me. All right, so this is the governor's private office. Of course, he has an office over at the Capitol building as well, but he's a very busy man, so he has to have a place to work at home, and this is it. Now, what's cool about this room is it wasn't always an office. Actually, prior to the 1960s renovation, about half of this room was the kitchen, a very small kitchen. And in the 1960s, they moved the kitchen to the center over there, where we'll go in a minute. And they expanded this room and they turned it into a den. And it had been a den all the way up until this administration. Governor Sandoval is the first governor to use this room as an office.
Wow.
The office used to be upstairs as part of a governor's suite. And this was sort of the family room. Well, he had them swapped because the whole family lives here, the kids. And they wanted a place where they could feel comfortable, a private residence, and so that's what the upstairs is. That's where the family room is. And now the office is down here, and I think it makes a better office than it ever did a den.
Does he use it a lot?
He does. He uses it a lot. In fact, not too long ago, he did a speech on TV, sat in that chair with the window behind him, and he does. He uses it quite a bit. You can see over there's a gavel from when he was a federal court judge. But behind me over here, there's a lot of things he uses to inspire him, letters and pictures of people. This here is Governor Paul Laxalt, former Governor Paul Laxalt, who was his mentor. And right next to him is Governor Sandoval when he was 21 years old. We call that his Chachi picture. And Governor Sandoval this time was interning in Washington, D.C. with then Senator Laxalt. And a quick background on Senator Laxalt. He was, when he was governor, really close with the governor of California at that time, a man named Ronald Reagan. Well, when they both went to Washington, they remained good friends, and Senator Laxalt was actually known in Washington, D.C. as the first friend. So, Governor Sandoval interned there with him when he was 21, and while he was there, they had these posters made up that had both Ronald Reagan's picture and Senator Laxalt's picture. And Governor Sandoval thought it would be cool to get them both to sign it. So Senator Laxalt signed his part. They sent it over to the president's office. He never signed it, or apparently it got lost over there. It never came back. And so he found out about it. He felt so bad about it that he sent the governor this personal photo of him on his ranch. And I know the governor loves that shot because it's not that presidential picture, standing at the podium. It is him on his horse at his ranch, really just kind of a personal photo. Another quick story, and that is Governor Sandoval here, who was Attorney General at the time, standing next to former Secretary of State Colin Powell. And he got the opportunity to fly out to Quito, Ecuador. And while he was there, he was going to get to meet with Secretary of State Colin Powell. And he flies all the way out to Quito, making a stop off in California. And by the time he gets out to Quito, they'd lost his luggage. So he goes to the first set of meetings, and he's wearing the suit that he flew in on, and he's got, he's unshaven, and he tells them, I lost my luggage. And they say, oh, don't worry about it, we'll take you to the mall, we'll get you a suit, we'll get you cleaned up. So they take him to the mall, he gets the suit, he gets this suit right here. So he goes to the next set of meetings, and they say, oh, we see you found your luggage. And he goes, no, I went to the mall, I got this suit. Finally, he goes to the last set of meetings. He's getting ready to meet with the Secretary of State, and he's standing in an entryway, and there's a set of steps that come up, and there's a little circular drive, kind of like we have out front out here. And the motorcade pulls up, everything with little flags waving, and the Secretary of State gets out, he walks up the steps, he sticks out his hand, and he says, hey, Brian, nice suit. To which the governor replied, I can see you've been well briefed, Mr. Secretary. So, those are some of the cool stories, and there are just so many, not enough time to tell them all. I know more important than any of these, of course, are the pictures behind the desk, the pictures of the family. And we mentioned this poster earlier. This came along with the book that's in the front room, and Marissa's signature, that's all right. Marissa's signature is right down in the bottom corner there, and she's real proud of that. If you guys get a shot of the front of the house, you'll see a little pink car out there as well. That's also hers. And a lot of people have noted how it gives this house a real family feel now with a little pink car on the front. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. This desk, I should mention too, was actually made in the state of Nevada. This belongs to Governor Sandoval. He bought this when he was Attorney General, and it was made at Nevada State Prison. He brought it with him, one of his favorite pieces. So. One more thing I'll mention in this room, and that is Governor Sandoval is a big sports fan. And you can see over here, we've got this helmet. And a lot of people come in and they see this Ohio State helmet, and they wonder why the governor of Nevada has an Ohio State helmet. Well, I'll tell you. He actually is an alumnus of UNR. He went to UNR to get his undergrad, and then he went to Ohio State to get his law degree. So I think it's fair to say that after UNR, Ohio State's his favorite team. But you can look and see on the helmet, they have these little stickers. They're called Buckeyes. And if you were to play for Ohio State's football team, you would get a Buckeye for a great play, you know, a sack or a touchdown, depending on what position you play. Governor Sandoval put a Buckeye on the helmet for each of the jury trials that he presided over as federal judge. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So now that we've seen what used to be the kitchen, I'm going to show you guys where the kitchen is now. Alright, so this of course is the family's kitchen, and this is where they make all their meals, and you can look at this kitchen. Actually, it wasn't always this big though. When they first turned it into the kitchen, it stopped about here. The rest of it was part of a wraparound porch, and in the 90s they expanded it back to the wall, obviously because they needed a little more room. And if you look out now, you can see into the backyard. We'll go out there in a few minutes, get to take a look out there. I'll tell you a little bit about there. But you got any questions in here?
Does the first family make their own meals?
As a matter of fact, they do. There is no full-time chef on staff. There is a member of the staff who makes their meals occasionally if they're particularly busy, but there's nobody that's paid specifically to do that, and so they enjoy cooking. In fact, the governor enjoys cooking quite a bit. So,
Are they here a lot of the time?
they are here a lot of the time. They all commute back and forth to Reno, except for the governor who works here in town, but obviously he's doing a lot of traveling. But they come here, and then this is where they sleep, this is where they live. Absolutely.
What's their favorite meal?
Oh, that's a good one. I know the governor is real fond of fruit. He's a very healthy eater.
Oh, nice.
Yep, absolutely. And in fact, they all are. So anything that you put in front of them that's healthy, they'll munch on.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No junk food.
That's
Cupcakes, right?
That's right. Yeah, well, and cupcakes. Of course, I say in front of the cupcakes, but there's always sweets later around. You notice, though, they haven't gotten into them very much.
Right.
So, one more thing I'll mention, which is over here, and this is kind of cool because it's like a little bit of history. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little door here that actually slides into the room that we're about to go into, and this is an old food service window. They used to be able to slide food directly from the kitchen into this little dining room that we're going to see in a few minutes.
Oh, wow.
Now, we can't see it from here, but around this corner back here, I'll just tell you about it. There is an elevator. Now, I know not every kitchen has an elevator in it, but what I will tell you is the mansion, because we have so many guests here, has to be ADA compliant. And of course, you know, there has to be a way for people who come who can't go up and down stairs to get from one floor to the other, which is cool. And they put in the elevator in 1998. What's funny to me is I'm told, while the kids love the elevator, I'm told that the #1 user of it in the family is the 10-year-old chocolate lab Hershey. He won't even go up and down the stairs anymore. He just waits at the door for somebody to press the button.
Wow.
And the governor actually will do a little magic trick for the youngest, for Marissa. He calls it the vanishing dog. And he stands at the door, he presses the button, the dog gets on, he presses 2, he lets the door close, and a couple minutes later the door opens back up and the dog is gone. And I'm pretty sure that Marissa's starting to catch on. But that's his magic trick, so that's a lot of fun. So I'm going to take you guys now into, I think, my favorite room in the house. So if you want to follow me. All right, so I mentioned this is my favorite room in the house. And I'll tell you a little history about it first before we get into the rest of it. But this table is an early 19th century Duncan Fife. And it was built probably sometime between 1800 and 1820. It's belonged to the house for some time. We don't know exactly how long. And it disappeared for a while. It probably disappeared sometime in the 1950s. Well, First Lady Dawn Gibbons founded a warehouse in 2007 or so. And she had seen the chairs in the house that went with it and didn't know where the table was. When they did find it, she had it refurbished. She brought it back. It's back here in the mansion, and this is where the Sandoval family eats all their meals together, right here at this table. This is their family dining room. And, well, do you have any questions?
Does this place get cleaned every single day or twice a day? It doesn't look like anyone's ever here.
No, absolutely they are. It does get cleaned every day, absolutely. And they're a pretty tidy group, you know. They pick up after themselves, so that's a good thing. Now, I mentioned, like I said, that this is my favorite room, and I got to tell you, it's because these pictures on the wall, you can see they've put up pictures from their family vacations, some things that the kids have made in school, these masks, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is the only room most of the year on the first floor that has this family feel to it. See, everybody only gets to see the first floor except for one day a year, which is Nevada Day, October 31st. You can actually come and you can go upstairs and you can see the upstairs as well. It's like an open house. But the rest of the year, everybody only gets to see this first floor. And this is the only room on the first floor that has this feel to it. And it reminds you that it's not just the governor's mansion. This is a home. This is where people live. And there is a family growing up here who gets to experience that, young. And that's very cool. And we mentioned the masks, and each member of the family made one of these masks. They made them on a trip to Idaho, which is one of their favorite memories together. So I got to ask, anybody want to guess which one the governor made?
The orange one.
That's exactly right. That's a great guess. Yeah. A lot of people say the center one because it's in the center. Yes, that's actually James's. Top left is Marissa's. Bottom right is Maddie's, and then right above that is the First Lady's.
Everybody sticks out their tongue.
And everybody's sticking their tongues out. They asked the governor why they did that, and he just said he thought it'd be fun. They have a really great sense of humor.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, very cool. So there's a couple more things I want to show you outside the house. So we're going to go out back. We'll get a little shot of that, and then we'll head into the Nevada room, and then we'll be done.
Great.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here we are in the backyard, and you can see actually there's quite a bit of land back here, and behind us we have what's called the Llewellyn Barclay Gross Memorial. Llewellyn Barclay Gross was the wife of Harvey Gross, who started Harvey's in Tahoe, and they built that in 1969 in memory of her, and at the time it was one of those decorative fountains. And in 98 or so, it was in such disrepair that they had to pave over it. But now it's a pavilion, and we use it for a lot of events. In fact, there's a lot of events, particularly in the summer out here. In July, we have the Wolfpack event, which is a big governor's dinner. Last year, we had about 700 people in the backyard for that, and it raises money for the athletic department at UNR, which is a really great cause. And then we have 8th grade graduations back here, and all kinds of events. It's really, really cool. So have any questions about the backyard?
It's so big. How much land do they have?
That's a great question. Actually, you can't tell. You can only see a portion of it from any given space. There's about 4 structures on the property. There's a small cottage, there's the Nevada room, the house, and the Llewellyn Barclay Gross Memorial, which break it up a lot. So you can't tell that the land is actually about 3 acres.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they purchased this land in 1907 when they passed the bill. Specifically to build the governor's mansion. Anybody want to guess how much money they spent on 3 acres of land in 1907?
$1,000.
That's a good guess. I'd pay that for it for sure. All right, I'll tell you. $10.
No.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
$10. They bought it from a guy who lived right across the way here. His name was Thomas B. Rickey. He was a cattleman and a banker, and I know he was having some rough times and wanted to make a good name for himself, so he sold this land to the state for $10.
Wow.
Sort of a partial donation. Really cool. Wow. So I mentioned all the functions. I want to take you now into the Nevada room, which is the banquet hall that we use for those functions, and I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Great.
Cool. So this is the Nevada room, and this room is built. It's about 6,000, a little over 6,000 square feet. It was built in 1998 in a place where a 4-car garage used to sit. And it's meant to hold about 300 people, although we have seats for about 160. We don't usually have more than 160 in this room. But the whole purpose of this room, and I'd be interested in finding out how many other states do something like this, and my guess would be not many. The whole purpose of this room is to allow local nonprofit groups to come and use this space. They get to use this space for free. Of course, they provide their own food and their own servers and things like that, but the space itself, which could save a group a lot of money, is free to them. And so we regularly have the Boys and Girls Club, the Boy Scouts, the Children's Cabinet, of which the First Lady is the program director. And an interesting point about the First Lady I should have mentioned earlier, she's a member of 2 elite groups. The first is that she is one of only 5 Nevada First Ladies to have been born in the state of Nevada. And the other is that she is the first sitting First Lady in this state to hold a full-time job. And she actually, as I mentioned, works at the Children's Cabinet. So she's full-time there, she's full-time mom, and she's full-time First Lady. And it's the first time in the history of this state that that's happened. So it's really impressive to see.
Yay!
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So A number of things go on in this room. Of course, state dinners, the podium is there, so if the governor wants to have an important meeting or maybe a press conference, he could do that in here. And then there's a little history in this room, too. First is this piano. And the piano was made in 1847. And at one point in its lifespan, it belonged to a former governor named Reinhold Sadler. Now, Reinhold Sadler never lived in the governor's mansion. So it's interesting that in the 1950s, Governor Russell found this in a warehouse and purchased it himself. Now, Governor Russell bought it with his own money, and he brought it here to the mansion. It lived in the house for a little while, and when Governor Russell left, he took it with him. So just a few years ago, the Russell family decided that they were going to donate this piano back to the mansion, and this is where it's lived since then, just the last few years. But a really, really neat piece, and you just don't see. Yeah, it's
Does anyone play it?
very few people play it, actually. We did have a guest with the symphony here maybe a year ago or so who came and played this thing, and it's the most gorgeous thing I've ever heard. And it's just got an interesting style to it. It's not a full keyboard. It's not 88 keys like a normal keyboard would be. It's a little short, and the keyboard is set just a little off-center, but the pedals down the bottom are still in the center of the instrument. So I don't play, but I imagine that would make for some awkward playing, but he played it beautifully. The other bit of history in here that I want to show you is the pictures of the First Ladies, they began the collection during the Sawyer administration. First Lady Betty Sawyer began the collection, and we've got them hanging in this room. If you follow me, I'll show them to you. So here are the pictures of all of the former First Ladies of the state of Nevada, except for our current First Lady, and there's a reason for that. And that is, they say it's tradition that you don't put up your picture before the end of the first term. And I'm told that anyone who's done that, that governor was not elected for a second term. So hopefully we'll see First Lady Kathleen Sandoval's picture up here in about 4 years or so. But you look around and there's some interesting history here. One thing that I want to mention, and that is, only 2 cases have there been where the First Lady was not the wife of the governor. The first was Governor Bradley, and I'll show you up here. This is Governor Bradley's daughter, who was acting First Lady. The other was Governor Tasker Oddie, and this is Tasker Oddie's mother. She was the First Lady, which is pretty cool.
So he wasn't married?
He was not married. He was actually, I believe, divorced before he came into office, and so...
I've never heard of a First Lady replacement like that.
No.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I didn't know. The daughter, the mother.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, there is one other case, although she's not up here, and that is our territorial governor, Governor Nye. His First Lady, his wife actually stayed in New York. He was from New York. And when he came out here, his wife stayed there. And his First Lady was the wife of Orion Clemens, who was the brother of Mark Twain, Samuel Longhorn Clemens, which is kind of cool. Mark Twain, and there's a little history there. I'll mention that real quick. Mark Twain has some ties to Carson City. He actually lived here on and off with his brother for about 3 years, who was the secretary of the territory of Nevada. Orion Clemens was. So, pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'll mention one more thing in here, and I don't know if you can see it there, but these chandeliers. The chandeliers are as close to the chandeliers style in the house as they could get them. These were put in 98 when this building was built. They're Waterford crystal, and the style is Maria Theresa. And what makes them Maria Theresa, named after former Empress of Austria, is that they have this glass casing that makes them appear to be made completely of glass, but generally they have a steel frame. And so that's why they're called that. She was apparently the first person to order a chandelier like that, and they're a lot like the ones in the house.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool.
Love it.
So that's pretty much the governor's mansion in a nutshell. You guys have any more questions before we go?
How do the local nonprofits get to book this room? I mean, you just...
They would call the mansion coordinator, and her name is Kristen Dillard, and you can find the governor's mansion phone number in the phone book.
So interesting. I never knew that that this was available like that.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
so much.
My pleasure.
So, last question.
So happy to have a guitar player.
There was a time I had nothing to give, and I needed shelter from the storm I was in. When it all got too heavy, you carried my weight. I wanna hold you, and I wanna say, you're all that I need. I give my soul the key. You see me, love me, just the way I am. I said for you, I'm a better man. I said you are the reason for everything that I do. I'd be lost, so lost without you. Under the stars, at the edge of the sea, where there's no one around, there's no one but you and me. So we talk for hours, well, time slips away, and I could stay here forever, and I could hold you this way, 'cause you are, well, you're all that I need. Oh, you. I give my soul the key. You see me, love me, just the way I am. I said for you, well, I am a better man. I said you are the reason for everything that I do. I'd be lost, so lost without you. I'd be lost, so lost without you.
today at Shop Talk with Vicki Palmer from Wild Tree.
Hi, Colleen.
Vicki. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
So, what is Wild Tree?
Wild Tree is a business formed on being healthy with healthy food that you're putting into your body. Our company has no MSG, no preservatives, no food dyes, no additives in any of the products. Love that about Wild Tree. Much healthier than the things that we're purchasing on the grocery store shelves these days.
And what is the difference between what I purchase on the shelf
Yes.
and Wild Tree?
Yes, that's an interesting question. I thought the same thing. And when I found out what they're putting in some of our food that's on the grocery store shelves these days, for instance, taco seasoning, does this look familiar, this little packet?
I get those when I order purses and shoes and clothes.
This is silicone dioxide, and it's ground up and it's put into the taco seasoning, as well as the Alfredo sauce and many other products that you find in the grocery store shelves. Here's what I tell people. When they come to my booth, I tell them, instead of just reading the nutrition facts, you want to go down to where it says ingredients. When you look at the ingredients, if you can't pronounce the wording, it's probably a chemical or preservative. You don't want that in your body. Wild Tree doesn't have any of that type of stuff in our products.
Well, if that's at the grocery store and this isn't, Wild Tree is not at the grocery store, where can I find Wild Tree?
You can find Wild Tree through a local representative. I also have a website, mywildtree.com/Vicki Palmer, VICKIPALMER.
And do you have a phone number that you respond to?
I do, 775-450-7741.
And if I'm in Texas or Arizona?
Not a problem. I have that website. You can go directly to the website and you can shop directly from there, or you can make a phone call to me and I'll order it for you and direct ship it to you.
Oh, I know you've had some calls from those two states lately. What were ladies looking for when they called you?
They actually had inquired about Wild Tree because Wild Tree has a website, and when people inquire about Wild Tree, I get the lead because I'm a team leader in the 260-mile radius, and so I have a business built with local representatives here in the area, as well as Oregon, North Dakota, Texas, Utah, and I can't even think of all the other places.
That's amazing.
So in other words, it's a business that can be grown into the United States area because we're all over the place. The interesting thing about Wild Tree is that it was formed in Warwick, Rhode Island. It is a family-owned business. Leslie Monti is the owner. Really, really neat lady. Just love her. She started Wild Tree because she wanted to feed her kids healthier, her family healthier. Excuse me. So with that being said, she's a pharmacist. Her mom is a scientist. They got together in the kitchen and they started dinking around some spices. For instance, this here, taco seasoning. That's the one we talked about here. That's not good. This is good. She started dinking around with the spices and she started making them, and because she's got two children that have health issues. One has Kawasaki disease and one has juvenile diabetes. They would get sick from the store-bought stuff. So her mom and her got together in the kitchen, came up with this spices. She started cooking with them, and her kids fell in love with them and didn't get sick because there's no chemicals or preservatives in any of the Wild Tree food line.
Now, I was so impressed with seeing you at various functions. You've been at several craft fairs that I've been at, both inside and outside, and the lines are always blocks long to try your food. And you've been so successful. I tried some of these. In fact, I tried the roasted garlic oil. What can you tell me about this versus what you buy in the
Grapeseed
store?
oil. I used to use olive oil. I don't anymore, and the reason I don't is because it's got a low flash point, which makes it burn faster than any other oil out there on the market. Grapeseed oil has a high flash point of 419 degrees. It also helps to lower your cholesterol. It's got antioxidants in it, and just overall, it's a better oil to use for cooking. Anything that you're cooking, you can even deep fry with this.
I used this in the crock pot with a roast, and my family noticed a difference, and they said it was the best ever. How about the butter?
Okay, so that's my
grapeseed
favorite.
oil?
I love the butter grapeseed oil, and the reason I do is because I'm a popcorn addict. I'll be the first to admit it. But I don't like the store-bought popcorn because of the chemicals and preservatives. So I get the whole kernel corn, I pop it, and then I drizzle this or spritz it over my popcorn, and I just, oh my gosh, I'm addicted. Yes, love the taste of that.
I'm addicted to the Wildly blueberry jam. It is so good. I have this on my toast probably 4 mornings a week, and I even share it, the little crust, with my little dog, and he just goes crazy over it. He'll do a little dance for this one.
So let me tell you something interesting. I do want to read the ingredients on this to you because it's healthy for your dog as well. Here's what's in the Wildly Blueberry Jam. Excuse me. Evaporated cane juice, wild blueberries, pectin, water, lemon juice concentrate. And did you notice I was able to pronounce every one of those words?
Yes, you were.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to tell Pete, my dog. You also mentioned that this package,
It's the best of the Wild Tree. I always tell people when they're not familiar with Wild Tree products, the best way to start is to get the 8-pack of the Wild Tree products because they are spices. They don't have the chemicals and the preservatives. My favorite out of that, and we'll actually look at that over on the table because I have one out for display so you can actually see them. The Rancher Steak Rub, I replaced my Laurie's and my Montreal steak seasoning with the Rancher Steak Rub. I love that one. It's my go-to spice, okay? There's also a dill dip in there. Oh, and there's a scampi blend. Oh my gosh, and the lemon rosemary blend. I love every one of those spices.
that's amazing. Now, this array that's in the basket, I don't know if the camera can see it all. This came UPS to my doorstep, and I started the little kit. Of course, I'm crashing it over here. But it came with all of these amazing things for me to actually get started. The little samples that I can
Play
clip up.
around with? Yes. Good.
And it also came with the books so people can look at them and order. I'm ready to go.
So in other words, congratulations for becoming a Wild Tree representative.
yes.
Good job, Colleen.
Thank you. It is amazing. Now, you get involved in the community as well.
I do.
You've done some
I fully
fundraisers.
believe in the breast cancer awareness. I believe in the Operation Christmas Child, which I was involved with this last year, as well as the breast cancer awareness. And the polar plunge is coming up, and I will donate to that. And the reason I do that because I think it's really important to support your community. I love the people in my community. I love the people in Dayton, where I do a lot of events out in Dayton. Fallon, I'm all over the place. And even though this business is kind of primarily built on in-home tastings, I also like the vendor events. So you'll see me all over the area. I think the farthest I've gone is North Dakota.
Wow.
Well, I was born and raised there, that's why.
I didn't realize that. I used to work in
Yes.
North Dakota.
I know you
I
did.
love it myself. Now, what has Wild Tree done for you?
Wild Tree. It has made me relook and rethink about my purchases in the grocery store. So when I go shopping, and I always like people to really hear this about products. If you're going to go in the grocery store and get this for your kids, okay, and I raised my kids on this, I thought it was fine, until I started looking at all the different things in here, the chemicals and the preservatives and the dyes, okay, Wild Tree doesn't have any of that. So, I always tell people when they're going to the store, make sure not just to read the nutrition facts, but read down where it says ingredients. Again, if you can't pronounce it, it's probably a chemical preservative. And of course, Wild Tree has the healthy version of that, which is the kids' cheese. Obviously, there's no noodles in here. You'll have to supply your own noodles. But with that being said, I like the fact that I know what I'm putting in my body and my family's body is healthy.
That's great. I understand we're going to have a tasting.
We are. Yes, we
And
are.
you have set up a table for us.
Yeah.
So let's head over there.
Let's do that.
Vicki has set up a table with different sauces. Can you tell us how it's laid out here?
Yes, I can. These are the grapeseed oils. I always like to start people with the grapeseed oils simply because they are so healthy to cook with. They have a high flash point, 419 degrees. We do have flavored ones on the table today, but we do have one that's natural with no flavor whatsoever. Then I usually move people into my dressings, on into a dipping oil. Then there's some spicy things on the table, an enchilada sauce, an outrageous orange. Then I move into some sweet onion Pacific Fusion, our brand new taco sauce, which just came out, a barbecue sauce, a couple of our jams, Then down into here, we have some dips and dessert. And that's how I usually go through the tasting when I'm at a vendor event. So this is how it goes. Hi, Colleen. How are you
Hi,
doing
Vicki.
today?
I'm fine.
What's your product knowledge of Wild Tree?
I'm learning.
Good. And what is your spice level?
Probably medium.
Okay, so I'll guide you through the tasting. And Trent,
Great.
how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So what do you know about Wild Tree products?
Not much at all, actually.
Good.
Just
You're in for a
explain
treat.
it.
This is going to be great. So here's what I do. I give you a bag of bread. You've got toothpicks in the bottom. Please
Great.
use the toothpicks to poke into the bread.
Okay.
Try anything that you would like. And Trent, here's yours. And ask questions as you go along.
Since you raved about the natural butter grapeseed oil,
that one,
I am going
yes.
to try that one.
Good.
And Vicki puts this on her popcorn.
I do.
I have to admit I'm a popcorn addict myself.
Yeah,
It's really mild.
it is. The grapeseed oils are not meant to overpower your food. They are meant to cook with to give a hint of flavor, and that's what the grapeseed oils do.
I'm going to try this basil pesto.
That's my husband's favorite. He
I
puts
love
it,
pesto.
He puts it on the potatoes that we cook on our stovetop, and then he puts the basil pesto over the top.
That's very good. It's very good. It's not too strong.
Wow.
Good.
Now, I have the makings for enchiladas, but I don't have the enchilada sauce. I
Love
would
that.
like to try that.
Enchilada sauce is right here. And Trent, that's a little spicy, probably not going to be for you. I mean, you can certainly try it, just dip your bread just a little bit.
I will. She looks fine. I think I can do it.
That is good. My mouth is not on fire. That's perfect. I believe I'll
Very
be
good.
taking one of those home today.
And as a representative, you can order directly from your website or your resource center and get a discount.
Perfect. So not only will I be earning on a business level, but
Getting a discount
my
as well.
family
Yeah,
will
we'll
be
be eating
excited
healthy.
that I am cooking.
Yay, yay.
I also like the jellies, and you know my favorite one. Is it
I
on
do.
the table here?
Yes, it is. Actually, the Wildly Blueberry is not, but let me glove up here really quick because I'm actually going to hand you the crackers and the pretzel, or the,
Oh, crackers going.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So you want to take, for the spiced cranberry jam, you're going to want to have a graham cracker for that.
Ooh,
Would you like to try
cranberry.
that?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. Love this one. This is one of our new products, and I love it because it speaks Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, anytime that you want cranberries. That's the ticket.
It tastes like Christmas with the graham cracker.
It does, doesn't
It
it?
really
It
does.
does.
That tastes really good.
I love that.
Cup of hot chocolate.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't have the
That would be
Wildly
amazing.
Blueberry jam on the table, but
That's
you
all right.
know
I
what?
enjoyed that one.
Do you want to try it?
I'm fine
You're
without
good?
it.
Okay, all right.
I have it in my package. I will try it tonight.
Good, good. Trent, what else would you like to try?
I want to try this sweet onion spread.
Okay, you will like that. That's
Because
really
I
good.
love onion spread on
And
burgers.
I'm going to actually do this, I think. Nope, it's going to go on there just fine. Sometimes the bread will fall apart in there.
I'm going to try that one as well because
That's
I
really good.
love that. It does stick on the bread.
That's very good.
This is awesome on grilled cheese
I can taste the
sandwich.
balsamic in it. It's very good.
That is really good. And it's, again, it's mild, it's light, it's not overpowering.
Right.
It's very
So
good.
one of the ones that really surprised me was the Thai sun butter. It's a Thai sesame sun butter sauce. When I think Thai, I think spicy. This is not spicy whatsoever, and I love dipping my chicken in this one. And it's awesome on a salad, like if you have water chestnuts or garbanzo beans, and of course your salad. Dip that or put that over your salad. It's so yum. So try that one. Or do you have
I
any
will.
more?
Oh, I have one more.
Okay.
Actually, two.
And Trent, you need to try that.
This sun butter one.
It is. It's really
I love
good.
sesame, so.
Oh, yes.
No, that's really good.
Isn't it yummy?
That's very good.
I'm not as adept at junking as you are, Trent. We try this one.
Isn't that yummy?
That is good.
Was that the Thai? The sesame one? Yeah, that's good.
Is there something else you'd like to try?
Yeah,
I see
there
that.
is.
Okay. Oh, you're almost out of bread, that means.
Almost out.
Okay,
so I got one left, actually.
Here we go, we're gonna put another one out there
I'm
for
anxious
you.
to try the garlic spread down there.
Oh, the garlic dip.
We'll be there
Maybe
next.
this one.
Oh, yes, I'll take that, I have the trash right here.
Let me try the sweet, spicy Thai sauce right here.
Okay.
I know I said we do spicy.
Yes,
but
that is spicy to me. It's a sweeter spicy,
looks good.
and I can actually handle that over like, this is awesome, like baked brie. Put some sweet and spicy Thai over that, put a little couple pieces of shrimp on top of there. Oh, it's
That's great.
so yummy.
That chili
Great-
sauce is great.
Great
I have to see
appetizer.
what you're talking about.
It's got a little spice to it, but it's not that.
Mmm,
It's good.
that is good.
Between the two, the outrageous orange, in my opinion, is spicier, but it's an after, it's
Right.
like a delayed reaction kind of spice. So
Can we move down to
we
the
can move on
spreads?
down here. I
Because
did talk
my
about
favorite.
this. Can I talk about this just for a second?
Sure.
The 8-pack that you got in your Wild Tree Business
Uh-huh.
Kit actually has these ones here, and the one I was talking about is the Rancher Steak Rub. That is my
Oh.
go-to spice. I love the Rancher Steak Rub. I also love the Lemon Rosemary blend, which is down here, I think, and the Scampi blend. Those are my 3 top favorites out of here, but I use every one of them.
Right.
When you get this 8-pack of Wild Tree products, you actually get a little sheet in there, and it has recipes. So
Oh,
it tells
that's
you what
nice.
to do
Right.
with the product,
Oh, nice.
which is great. And that's the other thing I want to say too. When you get Wild Tree products, and say you purchase the taco sauce, well, you get it home and you go, okay, it's for tacos. Well, it must be for something else. You can go directly to my website, type in Wild Tree taco sauce, and it'll come up with a whole bunch of recipes.
That's
I
great.
love that. So let's get over here. Let me glove up again really quick, and we're going to try the garlic dip, the onion dip, and the Happen and Hot Pepper Jelly over cream cheese.
Ooh,
Oh, I
that
just,
sounds
it puts a little on the addictive side. Still. there
So
you go.
if someone is interested
Yes.
in setting this up in their store, could they call you and see what's available?
Of course they can. I would love to come in and do this in somebody's store situation. I just want to make it real clear that you cannot sell Wild Tree products in a storefront
Right.
location. However, we're not selling the products, we are doing a tasting.
So they would order from you, and
Correct.
how long would it take?
It takes about 2 weeks from the time that I place the order. Remember, they're in Rhode Island?
Right.
Okay. So it takes about 2 weeks roughly from the time I place the order for the product to arrive.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Vicki, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
Well, again, you can reach me or Colleen, okay, because she's right here at Bridger Mountain, because now she's a new Wild Tree representative. You can reach either of us. Mine is mywildtree.com/Vicki Palmer, VICKIPALMER. My phone number is 775-450-7741. And Colleen is also a representative. She has a Bridger Mountain store. You can come and order from her. You just can't buy the products directly from her store. So, yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very tasty
you.
stuff.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And Trent, thank you for volunteering to
For
try.
being the guinea pig.
That's
of course.
right.
It was very good. Very
Thank
good
you.
stuff.
I'll
Thank
pay
you.
you really well later.
And thank you from Shop Talk.
Yes.
And we'll see you again soon.